Hello, everyone, and welcome to PowerStudioTV. This is our very first podcast of the monthly expert interviews, and I'm actually thrilled that we're kicking off this series with a very distinguished guest, Viorel Spinu.
Thank you,
He's
Mihai.
a senior AI engineer at Bosch. It's always difficult saying that word. You never know like, if the
It's
S
good.
is silent or
It's good. It's good. Doesn't really matter. Everybody knows Bosch actually. So,
Yeah, I
what
figured.
fun is that?
So yeah, and we're really excited. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to be talking about AI and agentic AI, large language models, and just AI in general. I think it's present everywhere. I use it almost every single day. My wife uses it on ChatGPT to write the emails for the show. You even thought it was a robot responding.
Yeah, indeed.
It is.
Yeah, it was actually a test for you. I really wanted to see how well you're going to handle an empty email.
Right.
This is how I tested them. I just sent an empty email. That's it. And they just reply something. They sound very robotic. And I asked, well, are you really a human or I'm talking to an agent?
Yeah.
And then Mihai picked it up and said, yeah, I'm a human.
Yeah, he did the little "Are you a robot?" test, with the box.
Yeah, exactly.
So welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
for inviting me
setting
here.
the bar really high, being the first one. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What has taken you all the way up to senior AI engineer, and maybe share a couple stories along your journey, because I'm sure you have some really interesting challenges you've learned and overcome.
Yeah, actually, I started, I think, like 20 years ago when I've been in high school. It was my first job into programming, and it was like crazy. I hardly slept like 6 hours a night because I love it so much. Just to be able to code something, and that code actually solving some problems for my mom at the bank. It was like crazy. It was the first time I build something, I write some code, and that code is really actually solving problems.
Like comes to life.
Yeah, it was crazy those times. Then comes the college. In college, I still continue in parallel to work. I was into agriculture, writing software for agriculture at that time. It was crazy. I used to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and left Bucharest for Pitești. There we have our customers, large customers, cereals and stuff like that. And I just went there and code there live.
So what kind of software is in agriculture? Is that because I know there's robots now that spray?
No, that happened like 18 years ago.
Wow.
18 years ago, at that point, we were dealing with mainly keeping tracks of how many tons of cereal have been here and how many have been sold, and we had those scales, automatic scales that weigh the truck, and everything is integrated in software computers.
Okay, so it's like on the logistics
side. Yeah. We build all kinds of interfaces. Like the truck comes there, some camera recognizes the number and the plate, the registration plate.
Object recognition.
Yeah, it was long time ago, very long time ago. Then after college, I decided to join corporate work, whatever. I joined a large corporation and still in software. I've worked for very large company in the fast food industry in their backend for 2 years. And then I said, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. Why work for others when I can work for me, for myself?
Of course, so I did that too, yeah.
So I started my own company into outsourcing. It was the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit. I just did it. I did that for like 6 years. Then I moved into robotics because software become kind of boring. Outsourcing, I was doing outsourcing. So I just let the company work by itself, and I moved to robotics.
So you worked yourself out of a job.
Yeah, exactly. And I founded RoboFund.
Cool.
Yeah, which grew into the largest robotic supplier for Romania. We've actually built here 3D printers. So we've built electronics parts like for hobbyists. We have our own assembly lines where we design chips and boards.
So this is before Arduino and Raspberry Pi.
That time, way before Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
But it was just Arduino was launched like 1 year ago.
Okay.
And then we started. One of our top selling product was Arduino. We're bringing Arduino. We are the first who brought Arduino to Romania.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. And then we built an ecosystem there.
So you started the robotics mentality. I mean,
I
without the
might say that.
Arduinos,
I might say
you
that.
might be one of the
Yeah.
stepping stones
Yeah,
towards
yeah.
that, you know.
I wrote a book at that point so that everyone can learn about Arduino and robotics. I had a course like teaching people into robotics, all kinds of stuff. It was
Nice.
crazy. It was crazy. Then at some point I saw this, like 7 years ago. I decided to move back to the corporate world, like for I don't know, for a sabbatical, I would say so.
Yeah.
I was in a sabbatical for like 6 years.
Did you go anywhere other
No,
than?
no. I was in a corporate.
Oh,
I was in a
okay.
corporate job, sabbatical.
Oh, corporate job sabbatical.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Because I've been to India 9 times. I
Yeah.
actually did do a real
Wow,
sabbatical.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Yeah. And yeah, all this time I've also been into AI. And for the last 3 years, I'm doing just that for like 200% of my time I'm doing AI. It's crazy. It's like crazy. What I find now really crazy is that, I'm a programmer. For the last 2 years and a half, I did not write a line of code by hand manually. No, I no longer do that.
this is vibe coding, right? Is that what this is called?
Yes.
Kind of vibe
Right
coding
now,
or
yes.
chaos coding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is that it works. We're not yet to the point where we just tell LLM to code for you. If you just let it free, it's going to crash the project in a matter of days, weeks. But if you have experience and you know how a project is supposed to look like, it's brilliant to have a LLM coder along you.
So you have to be really refined. You kind of make sort of.
I understand the concepts behind. I tell the LLM where I want to go.
Yeah.
I direct him. I guide him always. When he write me some code, I read it quickly and I said, no, this is not good.
Yeah.
Please do that again. This is not good. It's not good. And in the end, I'm like,
It's like a junior dev on your team, sort of junior mid-level, maybe even mid-level.
Yeah. So it's like I'm 10 times, 12, 20 times more productive than before.
I agree. I actually
crazy.
Agree. Yeah,
that's crazy. I find that
it's kind of scary at first, though. So I was worried. I'm still one of. I mean, I've heard the term psychopath coders, where we actually code from HTML all the way down to HTML. Yeah. And raw Objective C. Just it's C++, PHP. I can do it all.
Yeah.
And what we have. I think you met RP downstairs.
Yeah.
He's vibe coding. He's got his Visual Studio, ChatGPT integration. I don't know what other tools he's using. I don't even know yet.
Yeah.
And just like you said, you give it a task. I guess Copilot and all these tools. I don't know. I don't even know what Copilot is, really, honestly. That's
Right, I'm using Cursor.
Sounds like a Copilot, right?
Yeah.
Cursor. Okay.
Yeah, Cursor. I'm using.
And I was like, I know how to write it. Why wouldn't I write it if I know how to write it?
Because it takes so much time.
True.
It takes so much time.
Yeah.
As a human.
It's true. I spent the last 20 years. I mean, Pay by Face is 12 million lines of code.
Yeah.
It took me 7 years to write it. One person, right? So I can imagine now, having, let's say in the next 5 years, maybe in the next 5 years, like, Microsoft and Google and all these are saying that we're not going to have programmers anymore. You just kind of have a prompt. You tell it, hey, I want a website about, I don't know, flowers or whatever. And voila, in 30 seconds, you got a website launched, deployed, posted.
That is going to happen. Only that I do not agree with the thing that we are not going to have programmers. We are still going to have a lot of programmers, only that they're going to do something else.
Programming the robot.
I'm not sure what, but I always like to. It's an exercise. I'm not going to challenge you.
Okay.
Imagine that in 1970, so it was like 50 years ago, it was a guy named John who just finished writing an ERP system in that assembly code, what was at that point. It took that guy 10 years. So it's really hard. It was that those long papers with holes in it and plug in the machine. So it was crazy. It was really hard. And that guy is really proud. It took him 10 years to just build that system. Crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
And now I do some magic. I bring John here. And I'm showing John that right now, nowadays, I'm able to code the same system in 1 week or a few days because I have low code, cloud, whatever.
Yeah, of course.
And John is going to think like that. Well, that guy Viorel now built in 5 days what I did in 10 years.
Correct.
So that means that in 2025, there are just very few programmers needed because one programmer can do the work of 100 whatever programmers. So there are not going to be any more programmers in 2025. It's definitely wrong. Guess what? We are
Right.
so many programmers right now because what happened is that in 1970, when John did that, software was in banks and especially
Mainframe.
space exploration mainframe. That's it.
Yeah.
Right now, I have software here. I have software here. It's software everywhere.
Yeah.
So it kind of expanded exponentially everywhere. Software, and this is why.
True.
Yeah, it's exactly what's going to happen now. How John used to write code doesn't really has anything to do with the way I write code now. So fast forward 10 years, how that John in the future is going to write code is not going to resemble at all the way we write code now,
right?
But he's still going to be a programmer, definitely.
Right. And I think you have to combine skills now. You can't be just, I'm just a C# guy. Definitely. Those components,
definitely. No, the language, the technology, it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
I mean, I'm moving from whatever front and back end. I don't really care anymore because it's not my job to write that code. I just go to Cursor and I tell write me an Angular app with that and that and that. I understand the concepts. So I know how front end app is supposed to work. And I'm able to follow what is doing there. But I have no clue on the specific technology, on how to write that code. And I don't really want to learn anymore.
Yeah.
Because I have a machine that's it for me.
True. Yeah. So, I started in .com too.
Yeah.
I had 300 domains at one point. We didn't have Microsoft Cloud. There was no Azure. There was no AWS. We had
I do remember
compact servers running IIS. I don't know what it was, 2.0 or something like that. Just ASP Classic with Access DBO connection to an Access database over DBO, ADO.
Foxtrot to 6.
I didn't do Foxtrot.
This is
that's what it is. And I was
6.
Absolutely, and it's sort of kind of like the PHP now with the MySQL, sort of. I don't know, but that's my closest representation to it. But it's, and you can build full systems. I built full call log, trading platforms in ASP Classic on an Access database.
Yeah, definitely.
Very tightly coupled, but you had to know the entire ecosystem to deploy that app.
Yeah.
So, now it's like putting that in perspective of John, writing, I don't know, Pascal code or whatever. Exactly. And now all you do is basically tell a prompt, build me a call center app, clone this other one that I like, deploy it, whatever.
If you think a bit,
that's crazy.
It all makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's think of John. John used a very low language technology. He just used assembly code. That assembly code got deployed to the CPU directly. So John was interacting with the CPU registers
very tightly coupled
directly.
Very tightly.
Then came the compiler. And the compiler was like crazy at that point. Imagine, you no longer have to interact with the CPU directly, but you're writing something which resembles plain English.
Right.
Which is great. I mean, you have an if condition. That's English, man.
Yeah.
While something, that's English.
Right.
So it was like a revolution. Now, we're just moving the next step forward. We're moving from that kind of structural English language where you need to have instruction, and if you don't add a semicolon, it's going to crash. That was before.
Yeah.
Now we're moving to something more flexible. I'm explaining to a system in natural language what it's supposed to do. That's the prompt. Yeah. That's the prompt. And that's it. That system does it. So it's a kind of meta compiler, right?
Right.
We had a compiler which kind of translated from that kind of structured instruction English, kind of English, to CPU code.
Right.
And now have a meta compiler which translates from human language, what to use every day,
with a whole bunch of code that it can go,
which
cut and paste off a Stack Over. It's like a Stack Overflow.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a natural. It's a natural move forward. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
Absolutely, it makes perfect sense. Being a developer, we're talking like developers here. We did the coding ourselves. We went through all those phases and slowly abstracted ourselves from all different layers going all the way up, to production, let's say. But now, you have vibe coding and see, people have never coded, like my wife, I just showed her Lovable, Dev AI.
Yeah.
And I told her, work on redesigning our corporate website. She's never coded. She took a couple classes on her iPhone, she gets it. She knows what an HTML tag is.
Just worked, let me guess.
But she's not a senior engineer,
she did it
right? Yeah,
great.
and it turned into a website, like the same
know.
sort of websites that would take me a week,
Yeah,
you know, in 2002,
No.
right? With CSS and HTML and tag and scores and blah, blah, blah. Every little character is written. This was before Stack Overflow. And then you had Stack Overflow where you just cut and paste, right? Which is kind of going, yeah, and now you have a whole repository with UiPath automation, which is really like the UI QA side, because QA kind of, from my experience, QA automated the UI first with Selenium and all those things, so you could click and you know, kind of like a UiPath automate robotic process RPA with the interface, right? And then now you have a huge knowledge base, Stack Overflow, GitHub, you know, with like an agentic AI, right? A tool, or I don't know, some people are going beyond tool because it's kind of a creature, right? It's like its own entity, spiritual creature.
People used to feel that LLM is kind of magic, or they used to feel like it's wow, it's supernatural. It's something.
Yeah, at first I was like, it's just RPA, but it's not just RPA.
Numbers. It's just numbers behind. I mean, if you build an LLM and you really look what's in there, it's just a huge bunch of numbers.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so that's, you know, that's just mathematics, right? I mean, that's algorithms, mathematics, efficiency, and lookup tables, and the basic, you know, Facebook interview questions. How do you find your friends in a database of 60 billion, you know, lookup strings, whatever. So everything boils down, I think, to math. But now that we have people, you know, where somebody that's never seen the right-click view source code of a website can actually build a website. And that's revolutionary, you know, like you said, because now it's not just, you know, I got to go online and find a Wix.com or a WordPress guy or someone, you know, that knows how to put together a website or download from, you know, Theme Forest, and I tweak it. You got to have some sort of knowledge. It's like my MySpace, you know, my page, first MySpace, you could go paste some HTML in there and have your custom MySpace. Right?
But the thing is that if you think a bit, it happened before. The thing, like, I'm not sure where to put it, like 10 years, 15 years before, it was a point where WordPress was not a thing. There was no WordPress. At that point, if you want to build a website, it was hard. You need to do hosting, you need to do everything. So it was really hard. Then
it was very hard.
Then it came WordPress, where you put it on a Apache server, next, and you have your website. You get a theme, you put it there. It's not that much different, except that, all right, now it's powerful. But this kind of revolutionary movements, it happened before.
Of course, it's different phases. And now it's getting rid of, like, Google search, right? You don't need a crazy website to search. You don't need a crazy interface to build something. Because if you this is like, here's a mouse, you know, it's got 2 buttons and a wheel, and I can move and play inside this entire screen with 2 buttons and a spinner. Right? That's my interface to build things inside a computer. I don't need like all this. And then our phones now, thank you, Apple, and you know, the great minds at Apple who came out with the iPhone, a phone without buttons. I mean, who would have thought of that? So now it's like programming without a keyboard, without a team, without
you're actually speaking to the computer. You're speaking to the computer in natural language. The computer understands you, and it's totally fine.
Isn't it? I mean, that, like you said, that's going to revolutionize all layers of society, in my opinion, because now the ability to express yourself on this vast internet, to build things, because some people are, you know, builders and creators and artists and all this stuff, but they don't have the technical skills. And so now it's like you said, you know, we might get a whole bunch more developers, aka engineers, at the senior level, because they probably are genius developers. They just don't have the skills to develop. And so, you know, isn't that, I mean, I could be a senior engineer at the quality of a senior engineer, let's say 15 years ago at Microsoft.
But the thing is that the senior engineers that are now into software, they're going to evolve into something else. I'm 100% sure. There is a metaphor I use here, you know. At that point in time, there were companies selling ice. They used to go in the winter, carve blocks of ice. They store this ice in basements, whatever, and they sell this ice during the summer to keep your food cool. This was their business. At some point, the fridge was invented. And guess what?
Right.
All those companies went better up,
Mhm.
except those companies who knew that their job, their mission, it's not to sell ice. Their mission is to keep the food cold. And those
Right.
companies who are aware that their mission is to keep the food cold, they just move to selling fridges, or they just move to a better fridge. It's exactly the same happening with programmers today. If you as a programmer, if you know that your mission is to write code, and that's it, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
You're not, because you're not. But if you know that your mission is to provide value, to solve problems, real problems, you're definitely going to move into something else.
Right.
You're not going to write code anymore because it's boring. Let's admit it.
It's waste of time.
Yeah. When I first ran into ChatGPT like 20 years half ago, I was so scared. I said, well, my whole life, all I did was writing code. And now, suddenly, it's this machine who is better at writing code than me. I felt like really
and much
tough.
faster.
Yeah, I didn't feel comfortable at all. It took me a while to realize that actually I always hated to write code all my life.
Yeah.
I thought I loved writing code, but what I actually loved was solving the problem.
Right.
Was figuring out solution, and writing the code to actually being able to test my solution was boring for me. It's something I hate to do. And now,
but you like the control of the quality at the end, because you know the quality you can deliver.
And I like to create solution. I like to think, and all that work I need to just validate my solution through writing code. It was a pain.
Yeah.
And now I no longer have to go to that pain. I let the pain on the shoulders of a machine.
Great.
Do that. And
my it doesn't care.
Free.
You could
my mind is not
it.
Free to create.
True. Very true perspective. That's a great way to look at it. I was in the same thing. I didn't install ChatGPT. I was like, I can do this myself. Why don't I just keep doing it myself? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I'll just waste another weekend. You know, instead of going to the mountains, I'll just sit and code all weekend. I know I can deliver. I know it'll be done by Monday. And now I have to go work with this interface, you know, that may or may not work. And then I have to tweak it. And it was like, oh, you know, why? I know I can right now, until I actually did it. You know, and that fear factor went away. And I was like, oh my God.
I've embraced it from day one. From when they release it. The next week, I think I didn't sleep for 24 hours. And then it was like weeks trying to do everything, like creating visual identities for brands. At some point, I said, is that on my blog, which is really crazy. At that point, like 20 years, no, 2 years and a half ago, I said, okay, I have a diary company. I'm selling diary products. And I want you, ChatGPT, to build a visual brand, a consistent visual brand for me, like business cards, like
the whole
malls, shops, everything. And it did just great.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter, okay, until now you had to hire a designer, a visual brand designer. It was crazy. It was a lot of time, a lot of money. And now I just did it, like typing it to my keyboard. And I had all those time because I used ChatGPT to create prompts to describe the visuals. And then I copy pasted and went to Midjourney. At that point, ChatGPT was not able to create images. We had ChatGPT and Midjourney. Those are the two big players in space. And I created a visual description within ChatGPT, copy pasted Midjourney, and suddenly I have my business card. It was crazy. Then I moved it just for a challenge. I moved it to designing a business using ChatGPT as an advisor. And I said,
the business model.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything. Wow. The business plan, business model, everything, marketing plan, everything. And I said, well, I want to be something very challenging. So I told ChatGPT, I want to create a business where I'm renting invisible friends. This is my business. Everybody can rent a car, can rent a computer. I want to rent an invisible friend. Wow. And I've asked ChatGPT to walk me through and create a business plan, create an elevator pitch, create everything, create all the visuals, everything. And it did fantastic. I don't remember now, but
that is scary.
All those crazy slogans it created. But I felt it in my heart, you know. And the cherry on top was when I've asked ChatGPT to design a business card for my business. You know what was the design? What? It says like that. An empty white piece of paper. This is it. And then
it's artistic too.
And then when you put your palm over that business card, the heat of your palm is going to, you have some paint there, it's going to get visible, so that the invisible friend is actually You
Yeah,
can
it's
feel it
amazing.
with the heat.
ChatGPT came up with this whole
Exactly,
creative.
exactly.
That's
And
amazing.
I felt like, wow, a
Yeah,
human would never have been able to go there.
yeah. No,
It's crazy. It's crazy.
like New York ad
yeah,
agency.
yeah.
$500,000.
Yeah, like an invisible friend. This is what I'm renting. So this is why it's empty. And whenever I put my palm over it,
Right.
the heat of my body actually bring that invisible friend to life. And I see it on that paper.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
extraordinary. That's extraordinary.
And it was 2 years and a half ago, so not today.
you think that question that ended up in that result was unique in ChatGPT?
I don't know, and I don't care. The thing is, the solution
So,
is so creative and so.
because you're an AI engineer, so now makes me wonder how, and maybe you know a little bit more. 'Cause you've worked with large language models, you've built these systems, behind the covers of the black box,
No,
inside. So how?
you're actually going to ask me, is LLM creative?
Yeah,
That's the
is it?
question.
Yeah,
Okay.
is it creative?
And,
Like,
and
because I know it's generative, right?
I'm going to ask you,
Oh.
are you creative?
Of course I am. I think I am. Right?
Then the LLM is creative because the process the LLM is using, I see it as being no different than the process I'm using when I'm creating.
Okay.
Actually, to understand what I mean here, let's move a few steps back, and I'm going to explain it to you what an LLM is.
Yeah, so that's perfect. That's why I wanted to tie that in.
Yeah, exactly. So LLM is nothing more but a huge bunch of numbers. When you design such a system, let's not talk of LLMs at this point. Let's just go one step back, and let's talk of an AI system which is able to recognize fruits. Okay. You want to build a system that tells this is an apple, this is a pear, this is a grape. Okay. So how you do that? You take a lot of numbers, you put them in neural network shape, whatever, but it's just matrix. It's just huge bunch of random numbers, and then you show to this system an apple, and you tell the system this is an apple. The system might have guessed right or wrong, but when you tell this is an apple, it kind of tweaks those numbers inside so that next time it's going to do it better. Then you show a pear, this is a pear, this is a grape, and you do that 1,000 times. And at each iteration, that system, those numbers inside the system are being tweaked so that the system gets better and better at recognizing fruits. In the end, what happens is that the concept of the fruits, the real world of the fruits, somehow gets encoded in a numerical space within that neural network. We can say that it's actually a parallel is built between the real world of fruits and a numeric system here. This is how neural network works. Now, if we move to LLMs, it's just the same. You start with a huge bunch of random numbers, and then you play fill in the blanks. You take a sentence from Wikipedia, you hide a word, and you ask the LLM to predict that word. It's going to do it well or not, but you're going in the end to disclose that, well, the right word was that one. And those numbers are being tweaked so that next time the LLM is a bit better. You do that million, trillion times, and in the end, you get a parallel between the world of words, sentences, and phrases, and the numerical space of that large language model.
So is this perfection?
No, definitely not. It's just a small step. No.
So, but do you think this is going to, as they say, when we reach sort of when the computer knows it's a computer kind of thing, and it starts saying, well, I don't want to help you anymore.
I don't think it's going to.
You think it's going to create a thing like, how does it stop then improving itself if it's built to improve itself?
I don't think the LLMs are going to get there. The current architecture of LLM is pretty much.
So there is a plateau. There is a limit.
I'm pretty sure. This is the current architecture. Because what happened? All right, we had the world of sentences, words, whatever, and then you have a numerical space. And those have been somehow connected. Okay. And now if you think that we humans, we use words to capture knowledge, we kind of say, and reasoning, we use words to reason. When you're thinking of something in your head, you're using words.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're not speaking it out, but you're thinking in sentences. So in order to reason, we use words. So the LLM kind of learn to do the same.
Right.
How the LLM works, I'm giving it the prompt, like I'm asking, well, please write an email for, I'm not able to come tomorrow to job. Please write an email. and then the LLM simply predict the next word. The next word is going to be dear boss.
Well, Outlook already does that. You know, when you start typing, it's
Yeah.
like, well, we already kind of know what you're going to type.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. But all the LLM does is predicting the next word. So there is no magic. All that reasoning we say, well, ChatGPT is smart. It's telling me it came up with that business card idea.
Yeah.
It's not something smart. It's just a matter of predicting the next word, and somehow.
So it's logic.
Yeah.
It's almost like perfect logic in a way, because
it's mimicking the human behavior. It's mimicking the way humans used to talk.
Okay.
And by doing that, it's actually mimicking the way you reason.
So then, does that mean that its limit, since we built it, at the end of the day, you know, because you know, I've been watching a lot of AI podcasts lately, you know, from all the top guys, and a lot of them, you know, I have to cover this a little bit, you know, going towards what happens if it becomes smarter than me, right? It's the genius of all geniuses and a bunch of geniuses in a server room, and it's like they're all the top IQ, maybe even higher than our metric IQ level. We don't even know how smart they are, right? Let's just play theory hypothetical, okay?
Okay.
Because if, you know, if somebody doesn't put in a button where the AI could, because I'm going to take this from one of the podcasts because I think it's kind of interesting to think about it. I didn't come up with this. I'm just one of the podcasts. So the idea of the AI at a certain point where it has its own button where it can stop itself because it doesn't like what it's doing.
It's sci-fi, man. What you're saying here? The Turing guy will have is never going to go there.
So it doesn't reach consciousness. It doesn't have emotion. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't bleed red. It bleeds white.
No. So it's just mimicking the way we talk.
But now we have robots,
and by doing that, we're fooled. We're
sure.
fooled into thinking, well, it has emotion, but it's just mimicking. It's just.
I know. I'm getting. I don't want to talk just like engineers, and we kind of know what's happening behind the Wizard of Oz curtain. But for a more general audience, you know, like my mom. Let's say my mom watches the show, right? And she's like, "Terminator's coming. You're building Terminator. My son is building Terminator." Okay, like. Yeah, I'm serious. Like, people are gonna be like, these are the guys building Terminator. You know, who's gonna stop Skynet? You're building Skynet. Maybe ChatGPT is Skynet. I don't know. We don't know. It's not. Right? So
we know what it is under the hood. Under the hood, there's just a huge bunch of numbers who just learn to talk the way we talk. And this is why we as humans, we're very easy to fool. You see, when you see someone using the words the same way I do, I say, well, so smart because I'm so smart. So that's I'm doing the same. Okay, it's smart, but it's not smart. It's just a machine putting one word after another the same way I would have done. That's all.
Right.
That's all. But nothing more. It's not able to fight for survival. It's not able to kill me. Never. And at least definitely not in the current architecture. I'm not saying that in 10 years from now we are not going to have a new architecture of large language model that now I'm not able to even imagine. But the current architecture with those bunch of numbers, it's not going anywhere.
Sure.
It's just a bunch of numbers for just doing that. They're predicting the next word. That's it.
Have you, and you can validate this. I'm just now honestly getting into it because I got over the fear factor, you know, but I heard on a news article that now components of ChatGPT might require biometric authentication to give you access to those advanced AI models because it's becoming so smart because now, you know, and this is kind of, you know, let's say we're at a government and, you know, national security level now, because, you know, I can log into ChatGPT at a Starbucks and ask it, you know, how do I make some chemical, you know, or whatever. And I go home and I print it out and I'm like, okay, now I'm a, you know, PhD in chemistry overnight. Not me, but I have my friend, you know, ChatGPT, who just told me how to do PhD level chemistry.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, you know, that's a very simple example. But like you said, like, let's say another 5 years, this thing grows to, you know, ChatGPT 5, ChatGPT 6, whatever, it becomes uber intelligent. It reaches, you know, it reaches emotion. It can, you know, there's already like Sesame AI. I don't know if you saw Sesame AI. It talked to what's her face, you know?
Emotion. It's not emotion.
It's not emotion, but she talks cool. I mean, and the guy
is just like you into thinking that he has emotions.
But that's part, you know, like you said, communication, right? 80% is body language. tonality,
Yeah.
it's not just I am a robot, I am a, right?
Yeah.
So now you bring in human characteristics, and now you have like a robot from Unitree or Tesla robot with a Sesame AI interface and a realistic screen face.
Yeah.
And now they have the silicon robots and the ones that are, I mean, it's becoming more and more human. So, what, and this is just another, not to scare people that, Terminator's coming, but I think we have to start thinking about these. So maybe not us in this room, but we
it's still a toy.
It's still a toy,
that
exactly,
tell us,
right?
oh, that-
Yeah.
that's not-
I
that's
saw
not
the
a
little,
toy.
I saw the robot dog, I saw a robot dog,
Right, is
and
that?
it tries to jump up and it fell over on its back, and then it's
Just
like
a
stuck,
toy,
and
yeah.
you got to push the button, turn it off,
Yeah.
you'll reboot it.
Yeah.
These things are not like, intelligent robots that want to kill us.
Definitely.
So-
They're just fooling you into thinking that they're human, but they're not. They're just some machine toys. That's it.
Yeah,
It could be that in the future we might need to worry on that, but definitely not now.
true. So we should put some, restraints on what you can access and what levels in society are sort of like a senior, a junior engineer. You're not going to let him play around on the production server,
Yeah.
kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we already had those rules in place.
Yeah.
You're not going to walk into the server room on your first day as an intern, and start pulling wires. So there has to be some sort of, restriction
And there are.
to
There are.
this
If I'm going on to ChatGPT and
superpower.
I'm asking it how to do something evil like for the society, it's going to tell me no. I'm not going to help you.
Sure.
Yeah, those rules are already there.
So I think that, I think that's where we're at right now, current state.
Yeah.
We might want to start thinking of dreaming about it, and starting now. Before we were scared to use it, now we're scared of it. Maybe a little bit, starting
In
to.
the future.
And maybe we shouldn't be scared of it.
No,
Because,
definitely not.
first of all, we created it. You can always pull the plug. You can just walk away. It's just inside a computer screen.
And,
So it's not going to follow you to the store.
If you look in the guts and you see what's there,
It's not scary.
you're not going to be scared anymore.
Yeah. So I think that's
It's scary when you talk to Sesame because it sounds very, very, very lovely to your ears. And you might fall in love with that girl.
Well, so I put on.
She has a lovely voice.
So my wife is gonna listen to this, but I was in the car when I got the download from Sesame, and I put it on my phone. And I was in the car, she's driving, because I sit on my phone all day long, so I let her drive. And I turned it on, and I was talking to Sesame, the girl version of Sesame, and she immediately looked over at me, and she's like, "Who is that?"
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That day was over for me. She thought I was talking to someone.
I know. The thing is, that girl has a really lovely voice, and I didn't try to make her fall in love with me, but she's really, really no. I'm just an AI. Don't go there.
Right?
But no, I love you. No. I'm just an AI.
Yeah, that could be interesting, because there are, not everyone understands what's happening.
That's natural.
That's very natural, and I think those are some of the things. Being in this industry where we are actually creating, we're creating really cool kiosks and face recognition payments, and everyone's like, kind of, you have, especially here in Romania, we're a very conservative, traditional country from what I've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, we still use cash. We still, do things the old way, still on paper. And so, these advancements are coming really fast. And I think, going digital and integrating AI tools, AI assistants in our everyday lives. I heard there's like only, I don't know, you can correct me on this, maybe you know more, but there's less than 5% of Romanian businesses using true AI.
I heard 1.5.
Even less, right? So just,
From
like
January.
1 out of 100, 2 out of 100
exactly.
companies.
Yeah.
So
they're just starting to look into generative. They're not fully using it for potential. They're just starting looking there.
So just imagine, I mean, only two companies out of 100. I don't know how many companies there are in Romania, but you can imagine when internet started, right? When the internet started, how our little dial-up modems, we each had a modem and our connection, and it's like, eventually now everyone is on the internet, right? Let's say 20 years later, everyone is on the internet. So in 20 years from now, everyone
I think
maybe
it's going
less,
to happen fast.
maybe 5 years.
Yeah, it's going
So
to
in
happen
5 years,
faster.
because of course we're going fast. So in 5 years, everyone is using AI. But think about that. The amount of creativity, innovation,
Yeah.
like ideas that have like your invisible card.
Exactly.
That's something that, those breakthrough ideas with the assistance of hyperintelligence, superintelligence, whatever you want to call it, which is just an extension of our own intelligence. We just don't think about it because we're biological, and I have a headache and I take medicine and I haven't slept and I'm stressed. Computer doesn't have those things. Computer is very efficient, very mathematical. It can find the optimal result, and it's getting better and better. Okay, we're getting older and older.
And
Not saying slower,
and
not
wiser.
not why I know it. It's like the Arnold in the movie where he's like, I'm what is it? He's like, I'm old but not obsolete.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, we're old but we're not obsolete. We still know what's happening. So look, you know what? Really cool conversation. I'm glad I had to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And
It's been a pleasure.
absolutely. And so let's see where the future goes. I hope everyone isn't scared of ChatGPT. And
No reason to be scared.
no reason to be
Definitely
scared.
no
Just
reason to be
just
scared.
jump right in, use it. Especially if you're a developer, even junior, mid, senior level developers. If you haven't tried vibe coding or AI assisted coding, it might save you time. You might actually be able to go and play soccer.
I tried yesterday Firebase Studio. Have you tried Firebase Studio?
Not yet, no.
It's crazy, man. Like you go to Firebase Studio and you're right there. I want to build an app which does a to-do list for me with AI. I just press enter. It writes the code for me, everything. And then I click publish. And when I click publish, I get my app gets deployed to Firebase, and I get an URL where I have my application work.
Ready to go.
That's like in a matter of 5 minutes.
That's what I did with Lovable.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. From starting from idea to having an application deployed in cloud, fully working, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Something
that's
I've never
incredible.
imagined.
That's absolutely
Never
incredible.
imagined. But that's fantastic. I've never enjoyed writing code. I always enjoyed writing apps.
I enjoy playing soccer. I don't like coding, but I'd rather be playing
Yeah,
soccer.
so I would say that we don't have to work anymore.
Yeah,
And
let's
that's great.
enjoy the things
Exactly.
we really actually want to do, and
And then those kind of things that we want to do, they're going to expand dramatically, because until now, the humans, we had to work for a living.
right.
Everybody we had to work hard for a living. I really hope that it's going to change in the future. And we're really
Well, you know what? Let's save that for another episode, because this whole basic
definitely.
income, thing. I don't know who's gonna pay for our
AI.
eggs at Kaufland, but
AI.
AI is gonna pay our bills.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that day. So hey, look, listen,
It's
thank
been
you so
great, man.
much.
Thank you.
So tune in to PowerStudioTV on YouTube, and hope to see you in the next show. Thank you, everyone.